The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Wednesday, the 10th of February, 2016, opened up with gold at $1,191.50 an ounce, silver $15.20 an ounce, Texas crude $27.94 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 374 U.S. currency. Today in history, Saturday, February 10th, 1798. Louis Alexandre Berthier, chief of staff or major general under the command of Napoleon Bonaparte, invades the Vatican in Rome, the seat of the Holy Roman Empire. This invasion led to France proclaiming a Roman Republic on the 15th, and the taking of Pope Pius VI prisoner on the 20th. In recent news, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 yesterday in favor of putting on hold federal regulations to curb carbon dioxide emissions, which basically means that regulations will not be put into effect until the courts determine their legality. The White House stated it disagrees with the court's decision, but expects the rule will survive the legal challenges set by 27 states and various companies. The plan was designed to lower carbon emissions from U.S. power plants by 2030 to 32% below 2005 levels, an initiative pledged to by the Obama administration at the UN climate talks in Paris last December. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit will hear oral arguments in the case on June 2nd and rule on whether the regulations are within the EPA's constitutionally delegated authority. FBI Director James B. Comey stated Tuesday that FBI techs have been unsuccessful in unlocking the encrypted data on a cell phone that belonged to the terrorist couple, Saeed Farouk and his wife, Tashfeen Malik, who killed 14 people at a holiday party at the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino, California on December 2nd of last year. According to investigators, Farouk, a county health inspector, had become self-radicalized via the internet, and his wife pledged allegiance to the Islamic State on the day of the mass shooting. It seems that law enforcement officials never have enough power to access data on encrypted phones, even after cell phone company carriers are served with a warrant. Privacy proponents say the federal government, all the way down to the local PD, have all the tools necessary as a result of the anti-terror legislation passed after September 11th to detect and defuse terrorist plots coordinated over phone and computer networks. This has been your lowdown for February 10th, 2016.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I have a joke for you. Okay. The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
You thought you'd see it coming. The moment you was your fool.
Bitcoin is immune from attack almost completely. Bitcoin, you actually gain far more from using the computing power to generate Bitcoin.
There's a system approaching perfection. Just in time for our disappearance. There's a system approaching perfection. Just in time for our disappearance.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast. If it means I'm able to further limit reckless government spending. I mean, I have so many ideas. Some are simple, like take down traffic lights and eliminate the post office. The bigger ones will be tougher, like bring all of this crumbling to the ground.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Crypto Show, a show dedicated to understanding the promise of currency, technology, and liberty in the pursuit of a free society. And if you believe like we do that such a society can and should exist, then join us, why don't you, as we parade through a world unbound by convention, a world sketched by the beauty of the human artist. Because each and every one of you listening right now is that artist. So for the next 2 hours, let go of your most sacred system of thought and entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, everything we've been told about currency, technology, and yes, even that dirty, dirty little word anarchy is only one part of an ever-expanding, ever-possible, complex universe of ideas, one that we simply refuse to explore. So what do you say, listeners? Let's do some universe exploring tonight and have some fun while we do it.
Me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding.
Trying to catch me riding dirty. Well, this is yet another edition of The Crypto Show here on this lovely Wednesday, February 10th, 2016. And if I sound breathier than normal, which maybe you can't tell the difference because I'm usually pretty breathy, I am a little under the weather here, so hopefully we can make this happen without a hitch. It came on me all of a sudden earlier today strangely coincided with my first look at Danny. I don't know if that's coincidence or
You said it was
what?
Cane's Chicken.
Oh God, I shouldn't bash. I went to eat at Raising Cane's earlier. I wasn't a big fan, but that's really besides the point. But
Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
I'd rather have Carl's Jr. They got burgers. They got all sorts of stuff. They don't just have literally one thing, and they have like ice cream sandwiches and all sorts of yummy goodies. So I will support Carl's Jr. for president. But we have a great guest on tonight. We were going to have a second guest who I'm a big fan of. I'll just mention her, even though she won't be showing up after all. Some last minute.
She took a Tylenol and couldn't make it.
Uh-oh. Michelle Rosen, who has written, co-authored 2 books on the Tylenol murders of the 80s. And she has been working on a documentary concerning the same topic for quite some time. I actually hope we get to have her on in the near future. I love talking to her about that. It's a very fascinating story where basically the government ruled, basically in the 80s, I won't go on too long about this, but it's still something to check out. In the 80s, I guess for old people like Danny, this was, something they remember from back in the day. I was too young. But in the 80s, there were some contaminated Tylenol that were distributed across the country that had, I forget if it was cyanide or arsenic, I believe cyanide. And the government ruled that it was tampered with, that the Tylenol had been tampered with at the retail outlet, when a lot of people actually to this day, including Michelle Rosen, contend that it was tampered with at the manufacturing facility of Johnson & Johnson.
That's what she said.
And a little known fact, something which I actually gleaned from her book, apropos, is the fact that Donald Trump's sister, a federal judge, was actually involved in deciding that case back in the 80s. So interesting. If anyone thinks that he's not part of the system, I mean, come on, he's a billionaire and he has offices on Wall Street. Of course, he's part of the system.
I don't know. How do you know?
Don't be fools.
Have you seen them?
You know what? I could tell people I'm the Queen of England. I guess they believe it. I'm the Queen of England, and I got my little British staff of royalty, guys. So give me money and bow down to me, because people will believe anything.
The answer was yes, you've seen it.
Wait, what?
Trump Tower.
Oh yeah. We did see it when we were in New York. I don't mean to pick on Trump specifically. They're all crooks and liars, and it's all sham. But just related to that little thing in the 80s. So check that out. I forget the title of her books, but Michelle Rosen, Tylenol Murders. You can check that out. All right. Well, we're going to get to our first guest. And actually, before I do so, I just want to make sure we have a properly running clock. Properly running clocks are very important. There we go. Our first guest was one of the speakers this past year at the 2015 Texas Bitcoin Conference, of course, from which we did a live airing. His name is David Johnston. He's the managing director of the Decentralized Applications Fund. David has been a 10-time serial entrepreneur developing companies in various different fields, from software to biotech. He is currently co-founder of the Bit Angels, the world's largest angel group, and serves as the managing director for the Decentralized Application Fund. I just said that. As the managing director, David evaluates investments in decentralized applications and protocols that are based on open source software and use a distributed blockchain for token ownership and access to the application. He's also a board member at the Mastercoin Foundation, which encourages the development of open source protocols on top of the Bitcoin protocol. David got into the Bitcoin space in 2012 and has been excited to see the disruptive potential of the technology in finance and beyond. David and his wife currently reside in Austin, Texas, and when he's not traveling the world speaking at conferences or core developers of new technologies. David, welcome to the Crypto Show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being on. And as I already mentioned to you specifically and to our listeners, I am kind of under the weather. Bear with me.
David has Hong Kong lung, so.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Oh, do you go to China a lot? Or?
About once a quarter or so, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And how often have you been traveling to China?
I was there in October, and I was back there in January, and I'll be going again in March. Mostly Shanghai, Hangzhou, and Beijing.
Not so much Hong Kong, or?
I haven't made it to Hong Kong yet. I'd love to. I've got invited to a couple conferences there, but just haven't made it over yet.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been, but I mean, of course, I'm sure China is a very fascinating place. I hear Hong Kong in particular is pretty interesting, very Western in many respects. Right. So kind of less of a culture shock, maybe.
Sure.
And do you speak any Mandarin?
Just a little bit. I can count and say hello and a few things like that. I even asked my Chinese teacher how you say gringo in Chinese. And she said lao wai. You're lao wai. It's basically like old fat foreigner or something.
That's awesome.
So I introduced myself as the lao wai. Like I'm the outsider guy.
That's awesome. And let me ask you, is that the word for gringo in the sense of it's the Chinese word for the Mexican word for white guy, or just the Chinese equivalent of the Spanish gringo?
Just the Chinese equivalent. Though I definitely want to get down to Hong Kong. Me and my wife have a goal of going to the top 10 places on the world economic freedom index, and we started with Switzerland, and we've been to a couple other great places, but I'd love to get to Hong Kong next.
Okay, awesome. It's too bad the United States isn't in the top 10 there.
not anymore.
You can mark it off the list, but no, that's awesome. I was going to mention that too. Like, I certainly respect its reputation, and of course, you can have a reputation that's not necessarily accurate. America has a reputation for freedom and free markets, but that's really largely inaccurate. But I hear Hong Kong is still largely like that.
You're thinking of Merca.
Merca. Well, before we get to since we're on the topic, and before we get to some of your more specific concerns, since we're talking about China, tell us. And I'm sure most Bitcoin listeners out there have some idea, but what's your impression of the penetration of Bitcoin in China? How big is it? How big is the influence of the Chinese market on Bitcoin?
It's huge. So I was blown away when I first went to China in 2014, and really everybody at the conferences was building an exchange or had a giant mining operation, and they'd gone so much further than we had when it came to sort of complex ways of hedging Bitcoin, or all these, sort of elaborate ways you can bet on the future price of Bitcoin.
That's cool.
The amount of, it's a little wild. Like the leverage rates they'll give people are just Wild West, like early stock kind of days,
right?
Type of red. So there's huge volume. I've seen different estimates, but it's something between 70 and 90% of the volume worldwide is in the yuan, traded in China.
Wow, so, 70 to 90%.
Yeah. Well, when the fees are so low on some of these Chinese exchanges, you can trade a lot, right? You can trade a lot of volume, especially on this type of leverage that they offer. So that's a big component. The second big component is China's just a huge hub for manufacturing ASICs. Yeah. Right. It's as simple as that. And so they've got by far the majority of the mining equipment production in the world.
Well, they also have am I right? The majority of the miners as well?
Yeah.
Or at least the plurality. I forget exactly.
I think they've got a plurality, but they're aware of that as a risk. They're smart guys. They understand that, nobody wants to perceive that there's a lot of centralization going on. And so I've talked to some of them where they're actually pushing other jurisdictions and other countries to, let's help them set up a mining pool. Let's ship a bunch of equipment here, and we'll do a revenue split, but we want you guys to operate this thing. We don't want it all centralized in China. They're aware of that.
And that's really smart.
That's exactly what Yoshi told me about a week ago, because I was asking him about mining in Iceland, and he suggested that you diversify and do it elsewhere. Even I think Venezuela was one of them that he had suggested. That's was the lowest rate of electricity is in Venezuela, but the problem is the temperature is just a little bit too hot for the miners.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. And the second aspect is, the miners are very smart guys. It's not just a geographical diversity. If you own too much of the network and you're adding hashing power to the network, at some point, statistically, you start competing with yourself. Right?
That's a good point. Right? Kind of diminishing returns.
There's a diminishing return. Negative. There's some magic number around like 27%, 35%. I've seen different estimates. But if you get over like a quarter of the hashing power, you're adding difficulty to the network at a rate at which you're not getting more blocks. You're just making it harder.
That's a really good point. I never would have thought of that. Yeah.
So and so what that tells me is that we're going to end up in a situation, at least with proof of work, where there are 4 or 5 major groups because they can't economically get over that hurdle. And so they're all optimizing for like 20, 25% of the global hashing power. And I think that's what we're getting close to.
Yeah. See, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we had you on because that's a really cool insight that never occurred to me.
For me as a volunteerist, though, being into voluntary association, I'm comfortable with that because we have open entry and exit, right? Yes, it's going to specialize where there's going to be these big miners, but as long as anybody can join and anybody can compete and anybody can try to displace those guys as miners, then, I don't think it becomes a long-term problem. I think where you have long-term problems is where you no longer have free exit and entry.
Absolutely. Barriers to exit or entry. That is one of the primary ways in which government will distort and disrupt markets. But, there's no a grand objective number of miners or concentration of miners that we can ever know. And that's something people fall prey to when they analyze markets is, there's only like 6 car companies. This must be an oligopoly. No, that could be a perfectly competitive market. Same with Bitcoin. Well, that's really cool. We're talking with David Johnston here on The Crypto Show. We'll be right back to talk more with him. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot.
I'm sick of people being victimized by criminal cops. Psychopathic predators terrorizing neighborhood blocks. Equipped with pepper spray, mace, cuffs, tasers, and glocks. They like serial killers acting out subliminal thoughts. Forget what you taught. These cops are got a license to kill. Witness intimidation means that they can use it at will. Code of silence means that the pigs will never let out a squeal. And if they go to court, they know the judge will make them a deal. For real, that's why they stopping me, locking me up and stopping me, confiscating my property, talking in my demography, making the poor commodities, profiting off of poverty, enforcing policy, supporting prison economies. Yeah, no one makes money when.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely Wednesday, February 10th, 2016. To the fine tunes of Rob Hustle of robhustle.com. This is what happens when you call the cops. Don't forget to check out his sequel, Good Cops. It's ironic. And he's still working on a music video to that. So hopefully that'll come out in the near future. And we'll have him back on to discuss that when he does. Well, we're talking with David Johnston. As I mentioned before, he was one of the speakers at the Texas Bitcoin Conference this past year. And he is the managing director of the Decentralized Applications Fund. And we're going to talk to him momentarily about that, as well as what decentralized applications are. But David, I want to ask you real quick, are you going to be speaking again at this current year's conference?
Yeah, I expect so. I know Paul and them are trying to work out the timing for this year. But yeah, I would love if they invite me to speak again about decentralization and how we can sort of expand this Bitcoin model to other applications.
Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, we're looking forward to it ourselves. I think if I recall, Paul said it's going to be later in the year, which is good because even though there was a really good turnout this past year at Moody's, which is a great...
Don't ask Paul. He's not running nothing.
Oh, he's not?
No, you talk to the boss about that.
Who's that, you?
No, Linda.
Oh, is that the wife? Oh,
Linda's
of course.
the boss.
Yeah.
I liked Linda. We had her on briefly that one time. She was pretty cool.
Yeah. Linda's great.
I could tell that she was the power behind the scene. But yeah, so hopefully that'll be in the fall. Definitely better doing it than in March when you've got a lot of events going on. So
sure.
We're excited to look forward to that. So David, tell us about decentralized applications and then tell us about the fund of which you're managing director.
Sure. So this sort of all started in 2013 when I was really diving into the technology behind Bitcoin, the blockchain. And I realized that we could apply this model of open source, a digital token, a peer-to-peer network to lots of things that have nothing to do with money or currency. And so I wrote with a bunch of other great co-authors the General Theory of Decentralized Applications as a white paper and published that late 2013. So if you've heard the term, I'm the guy that tried to.
Wow, that's awesome.
Coin that.
Congratulations.
So it's been a lot of fun, but I went through, okay, like, can we do decentralized data storage, right? That's a really big thing that if you can do that, then it's impossible to censor anybody that wants to put up a website or, run a news feed. And so I started meeting a lot of different groups, ended up going over to Scotland and meeting the guys from MadeSafe.
Oh, cool.
Man,
We've had those guys on.
Yeah, David and Nick. Yeah, they're really, really sharp. I went over to Scotland. I got to meet their 12 PhD level mathematicians, computer scientists. Those guys are really impressive. And, they decided, if we add a digital token to this whole system, all of a sudden it's like BitTorrent on steroids. Instead of just adding the node and getting to share a little bit of data based on a good reputation, now if I'm a big company, I can buy as much decentralized storage as I want.
Right.
And so that was I'm a big fan of BitTorrent. I'd love to see sort of that next evolution. So ended up helping those guys and being involved in their launch in 2014. So that was kind of like the first big thing that the fund did.
Yeah, and that's really cool. The whole concept of voting power that also has value within the system that can be traded or earned, depending on what you're doing for the system. Sure. Yeah, it's a brilliant concept.
Yeah. And so what was really unique about the venture fund is instead of like doing the traditional route of raising dollars and all that, we purely raised Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And so I think we're probably the first venture fund ever to go all cryptocurrency. But more than that, we didn't buy any shares. We didn't buy any equity. We didn't, sign convertible debt notes for startups. We were purely interested in these decentralized applications that were totally open source and they had their own digital token that powered them. So think Ethereum, think MadeSafe, think Factom, where it's about creating this common platform that has the right economic incentives so that the software can pay the hardware, right? That was the genius of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Is as soon as somebody's cutting checks in the middle, it's their network. Right?
It's kind of how Dash operates on the same model.
So a lot of people have adopted this model, and a lot of the early variants were sort of alternative coins that were like, oh, we're just going to copy Bitcoin and we're going to change some parameter. Now we're starting to see sort of more mature systems that they're not based on the Bitcoin source code, right? Like Ethereum or Factom or MadeSafe, but they're building their own thing, but they're using this model that Bitcoin pioneered. Right. That's the whole idea of decentralized applications.
That's really cool. And you mentioned Ethereum, Factom, and MadeSafe. And obviously you said you went to Scotland and talked with those guys.
Sure.
Perhaps you already said it or it's implied in what you said, but has your fund also worked directly with Ethereum and Factom?
Yeah, sure. I've known Vitalik since back in 2013 before he started Ethereum. Really, really smart guy. And he saw the limitations of the existing protocols, right? Everybody was realizing, oh, cool, we can put this type of stuff on a blockchain and this type of stuff on a blockchain. And everybody was building protocols that did like one specific application. He's like, no, guys, here's what we need to do. We need a protocol that you can just write code to and you can run any kind of application you want. And that was like the light bulb that got all those developers excited because like, oh, you're right. If we can do a general purpose, basically decentralized compute protocol, that's how I think of Ethereum, is then I can run whatever I want on a decentralized basis. And so it certainly was a heavy lift, man. They spent a lot of time building out the code. They hired a ton of developers after their software sale. But they pulled it off and they launched it last year and now it's live. So that's really cool to see.
That's awesome. So you might call it a application non-specific integrated coin, if you will. Sorry, I just came up with that. Is that clever? No. Okay. Funny? No. Okay, never mind. Thanks for the crazy laugh.
No worries. Yeah,
but no, I like that versatility instead of, and that's where you see a lot of software development trending, whether it has to do with Bitcoin and blockchain technologies or not. Right. Just open versatility, like with web development. I mean, now instead of like sort of ad hoc developing a website, there are platforms out there where you can just do whatever you want with the underlying software, and just making it so that kind of anyone can do these things, or maybe, or if not anyone, it's definitely opening up the field to more competitors or smart people with all of this versatility.
Yeah, cool. I'm not a coder at all, and I can just go on Strikingly and whip up a website in like 30 minutes, just drag and drop the images. Those kind of pieces of software really open things up. And that's the same kind of thing that Factotum has done, right? It's like, here's a blank piece of paper. You can write any data you want to it, and it gets anchored to the blockchain forever. Like, we're not going to try to force you to interpret it one way or interpret it the other way or guess what kind of applications you're going to have. We're just going to give you this open platform, and you write whatever you want and interpret it at the application layer. That's a really good strategy for how to build this kind of software.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what other kind of projects that you're aware of are people working on that you're interested in funding or getting involved with otherwise? Well, some of the cool ideas out there using this idea.
Sure. Well, now that we have decentralized storage with MaidSafe and decentralized compute with Ethereum and all this data validation and identity stuff with Factotum, I'd love to see somebody try to pull off a generalized protocol for bandwidth. Like, think a decentralized internet service provider. So instead of AT&T, I hook into a mesh network. I'm paying cryptocurrency on the mesh network. And there's some sort of built-in incentive, like the block reward is for Bitcoin, that's getting people to bootstrap this system.
That's really smart.
Sorry, I would really love to see that happen. That'd be great.
Was that what Daoist was doing? I forget. Did they have
what he was doing is providing the antenna system, the towers, and everything. He's the one that's bringing. He has the hardware to bring you
the physical hardware,
the wireless internet.
Right.
And what his deal is he actually runs at a different frequency that is not licensed. So it also brings the price way down. Sure. So it was really interesting stuff.
There's all this cool hardware with mesh networks now over Wi-Fi, like you can do with Open Garden, or things now that over LTE, because everybody's an LTE chip in their phone. Pretty soon they'll basically be able to share over that type of architecture. So the hardware stuff has been there for a while. It's more like, how do we build a cryptographic proof that I'm sharing data with you, and it can't be spoofed by somebody just sharing with themselves a million times and trying to mine it.
That's so cool. Yeah. Like, it's funny, like
that's a really hard problem.
It sounds obvious when you say it, but then it really isn't, because it's still just an ingenious idea to add to that. Well, we're coming to break with David Johnston, Managing Director of the Decentralized Applications Fund, here on the Crypto Show.
Coke and Pepsi aren't the healthiest of drinks, but they recently got a tiny bit better by changing a common ingredient consumer watchdogs say might cause cancer. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll tell you what that controversial chemical is next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
For decades, Coke and Pepsi have insisted their soft drinks are completely safe. Well, they haven't changed their story, but they are changing the caramel coloring that gives colas that rich brown hue, because it may cause cancer. It's called 4-methylamidazole, and authorities in California say it's a carcinogen after high doses cause tumors in animals. Turns out that caramel coloring is made with ammonia and other chemicals. The companies say you'd have to drink 3,000 cans a day to match the study's doses, but they're changing their colorings anyway, nationwide. Now, if they just deal with all that genetically modified corn syrup. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time. Take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you
All right, welcome back, guys, to the Crypto Show here on this lovely Wednesday, February 10th, 2016, here on, I forgot to mention, on Logos Radio Network, which is having its annual fundraiser. Go to logosradionetwork.com and check out the cool prizes that you can win for donating to Logos Radio Network. Help out the network, keep it going. It's been around for quite a while, and we hope to keep it around for quite a while yet. You wouldn't get the Crypto Show if it weren't for Logos Radio Network. You wouldn't get all the other excellent shows, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, The Vaccine Myth, all sorts of other good stuff. So try to help out if you can. We know times are hard, but, every little bit helps. So also don't forget, we are still raising money for the Ross Ulbricht Appeals Fund. Go to thecryptoshow.com/freeross, and you can either donate directly to his QR code for the Bitcoin wallet for the fund, or purchase or bid on some cool items that are available through the Crypto Show website at thecryptoshow.com/freeross.
Like a ghost gunner.
Like a ghost gunner. I forgot we still got that, don't we? Do we have any bids on that yet?
Not yet. But I haven't really been pushing it. I'm going to try to get rid of it down there in Acapulco.
Oh, that's right. You're slacking, Danny.
I'm sure
you can take that down there, hopefully.
Maybe the cartel needs guns. Who knows?
Am I right? Well, Obama's providing that. Don't worry. Obama and Eric Holder made sure they got plenty of guns. But we're talking with David Johnston, Managing Director of the Decentralized Applications Fund. And he's not just the Managing Director of the fund, but he's a big believer in these decentralized applications. And it is really the sort of growth sector and future of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And we were kind of talking about, some of the potential applications that are possible or being worked on. And off air, he mentioned one that I thought was a really neat idea. We already kind of had the first half of it on the show a couple weeks ago with DAOWISP and what's his name?
Travis Boyd.
Thank you. But, lo and behold, it sounds simple after you hear it and you tell yourself, oh, I could have thought of that. But you didn't. Someone else did, and it's pretty ingenious. But tell us about how that would work with decentralized bandwidth.
Well, one of the things I think that would be really cool to unlock was it was amazing to see the free market compete to put as much hash power on Bitcoin as possible, right? First, people started with their laptops. Then everybody raided Best Buy for their graphics cards and set all those up, right? And then people started producing hardware that just mined Bitcoin, right? ASICs that only mined Bitcoin. And so that evolution was really incredible to see. And now there's this huge state-of-the-art companies. They're all designing these chips and making this incredible network so secure. So it'd be great to see if we could unlock that kind of free market competition when it comes to something like providing internet and providing telephony, right, on your phone and data. Imagine, okay, you can start with a mesh network, right? And everybody's got a phone in their pocket or they've got Wi-Fi at their house and they can make a little by sharing it. But the really entrepreneurial people, right? They're going to go out there. They're going to buy all the little, WiMAX towers and all the ways that they can spread bandwidth. They're going to put them up around the cafes and around town. And I think before you know it, people would be building little towers like you're talking about and setting up the real infrastructure that you need to service thousands and even millions of people in a city. And that's a really cool idea because in the U.S., there's a lot of regional monopolies today when it comes to telecom. They've carved out their particular licensing and spectrum when it comes to different parts of the U.S. And to imagine a world instead where everybody's competing openly and getting rewarded for that kind of thing, I think you would see the same kind of evolution we saw with Bitcoin when it comes to offering that bandwidth hardware.
Yeah, and that's what Travis was saying is that he would start the network and then he would try to lure people in to put their own towers up by tracking how the bandwidth went through each tower, and each tower would be rewarded with cryptocurrency. Right. And so that's whoever received the packages or whatever would be paying per. They would pay for everything with crypto.
Exactly, and so that's the high level idea. But the further I delved into it, 2014, 2015. It's really, really tough from like a computer science perspective. Think about some of the challenges. Okay, I'm going to send my data across the network. All right, I can encrypt it. It'll be private, but I don't want people seeing where I'm going and things like that. So you need Tor aspects of going from node to node. And you need to attach payments somehow, even without knowing the recipient and knowing the sender.
Oh, yeah, good
so it's got to go along this chain of things. And so, and then there's all the aspects of, okay, if somebody's competing to do this, maybe I'll just buy a couple of phones and a few towers and run bandwidth back and forth, and I can scam the network into giving me the block rewards. So those are some of the big challenges that people have to overcome.
It's like a double spin.
Something like that. So it's definitely a tough problem, but I think if somebody can solve it, it'll really be a revolution. What people are doing today is sort of a simpler version of that. They're saying, okay, BitTorrent is great, But now that cryptocurrency exists, I can pay you for a particular file. It's really simple. We're not worrying about proving it to the network. It's just you and me. And so we'll do this as a two-way deal. I'll pay 10 cents for, a terabyte of downloads or whatever. And that's something that you can do today. And so people are building on top of the BitTorrent protocol to do kind of that, right?
So it's a start. Yeah.
That's a start, right? That's a simpler version of what we're describing.
Yeah. And I want to add too, just while I think about it, there's been a debate to some extent, and maybe less so these days, about whether other cryptocurrencies would, in the long run, be able to exist alongside Bitcoin. And of course, with people like Scrooge McAltcoin on one
Daniel
end,
Krywitz,
sure,
yeah, on one end, who says it's not possible. Then other people on the other ends and everything in between. And of course, to some extent, it makes sense. Bitcoin has the networking effect. It has the computing power behind it relative to all the competitors. But one thing that I think these sort of decentralized applications illustrate is that you can have these token cryptocurrencies within these systems that actually operate basically as secondary currencies. I mean, that's essentially what a token is. Like, whether it's if you go to Chuck E. Cheese, those tokens are currencies within Chuck E. Cheese system. And maybe that sounds like a trivial thing to say, but if anything, I think it's the beauty of the market to, it doesn't exactly have to be simply the primacy of Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Well, I tend to agree that the network effect is huge.
Yeah.
Metcalfe's law is the reason that the internet is so powerful. The bigger the network gets, the more it's an exponential, right? It's not a linear increase in networking power. So I definitely agree with that. But to what you're saying is there are different network effects. Like the US dollar, the US dollar can coexist with Microsoft Office licenses, right? That's basically what these are, is they're software licenses that let me access a particular piece of software, give me the right to, let's say, do a transaction or write to a database.
They're a currency in effect, or a token, sort of.
They're a software license that allows you access to this particular protocol.
Right.
And I'm not going to pay, for groceries ever with Ether.
Right.
Ether is still really useful to run smart contracts.
Right.
So I think those two things can coexist. And that's why I always differentiate between decentralized applications and these application specific tokens and traditional altcoins like, oh, we're going to replace Bitcoin because we're Litecoin and we're slightly faster. That's not very convincing. It's still cool that those things exist because, hey, let's say Bitcoin ever gets compromised. We have all this diversity in the ecosystem.
To pick up the slack if it were to go, kaput or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about earlier, the beauty of entry and exit. It's the ultimate veto is if I decide to vote with my feet and go to another protocol. So I think it's fine to have that there. But no, I totally agree that the network effect is a really big thing. And it's hard to imagine. I mean, when I started, there was a couple 100,000 Bitcoin users. There are now 15 million Bitcoin wallets.
Is it that many?
There are now
Wow.
15 million Bitcoin wallets globally. So there's been this huge increase. Think about all the software that's been built that only integrates with Bitcoin, right? People haven't heard of these alternatives. They can't possibly have built stuff that works with them, right? So you end up with this huge ecosystem, all these things that are already integrated. So it's really tough to imagine anybody saying, oh, I'm going to build this alternative. Even if they had, let's say it was a big company, they don't have this whole ecosystem there supporting its development, right? It would just kind of be in a silo by itself.
Right. Because, I mean, yeah, you could have, like, say, a big Google or something, but you have all these little, medium, and even big companies working on the existing ecosphere that has just grown and grown and grown and gotten sophisticated, has covered a lot of necessities, I guess, if you will, in the market. And it would be, unless you just had some magic spell that kind of created something better in an instant, it's hard to see that getting supplanted, basically.
Not to mention, because Bitcoin is open source, whatever gets invented in the future, they can adopt it.
Can just throw it into Bitcoin.
Right, exactly. So, for instance, Dogecoin was really cool at first because it was the first tipping application. They built a really good UI that was a cool tipping app, right? But then ChangeTip came along and built basically the same thing on top of Bitcoin, right? So now Bitcoin still had its network effect, and now it had tipping, right? So it kind of folded that functionality in.
Right. And thanks to Kyle Kemper of ChangeTip, who's been on the show. He's our Canadian friend up there for ChangeTip, and was here for South by Southwest. That was a lot of fun.
He's working on some new cool stuff, too.
We should have him back on.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to break, not with Kyle Kemper, but with David Johnson, Managing Director of the Decentralized Applications Fund. We'll be right back to talk with him just a little bit more.
I don't want a chip in my pages. Stay out of our lives. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I stay down with Big Brother.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely February 10th, 2016, a Wednesday. Don't forget the LogosRadioNetwork.com fundraiser. And don't forget to go to thecryptoshow.com/freeross. Don't forget our sponsors, Brave New Books and Hill Country Home Improvements.
And Carl's Jr.
And don't forget, we used to do that all the time. I remember now. I forgot about that. And now you're bringing it back. I like it.
It's because I ran out of hash coins.
Yeah, you brought that back too. Oh, I'm feeling nostalgic. It's so sweet. But don't forget also, how many times can I say don't forget? We are going to be in Acapulco for Anarchapulco. So the event is from the 19th to the 21st. There's a lot of informal stuff going on before and after. Danny will be there early. I will be there the night before it starts. And we're going to be coming live probably more than once there. We're going to be talking to a lot of cool people. Unfortunately, one of my favorites, James Corbett, won't be there. I was so looking forward to that this year. But Danny was lucky enough to meet him and talk to him last year. But anyway, so look forward to that. You can still go use discount code CRYPTO to get 10% off of your tickets. But we're talking with David Johnston, the managing director of the Decentralized Applications Fund. And we've been talking to him about decentralized applications, and it's a really cool subject matter. But let's switch gears. And I guess I want to know, David, we talked about this briefly off air, but for our listeners, what do you think of the whole block size debate?
Really, ultimately, I think the market will decide, right? So everybody's making these impassioned cases for larger blocks or smaller blocks, and I take it that these people are acting in good faith, like they really believe what they're saying, either about wanting to preserve decentralization of running nodes or needing to serve larger and larger scale transaction use cases, right? So I think both sides have the right intentions. Ultimately, I'm hoping that through a combination of the people that want smaller blocks implementing more efficient accounting through the new segregated witnesses that they've proposed, and the miners coming together and saying, hey, we can handle whatever size for the blocks, a combination of those two will sort of keep up with the demand. Because I've been watching the number of transactions just blown up this year, right? We went from 100,000 a day towards 200,000 a day.
Wow, really doubled?
Yeah,
wow.
It's doubled in the last 12 months. So I did a whole analysis of all the transactions that had ever done in the blockchain. And you had this huge growth from 2010 through the end of 2013. Then Gox happens and there is zero growth for an entire year as the ecosystem recovered from the collapse, of 70 or 80% of all of the users were on Gox. And so finally at the beginning of 2015, growth resumed. And now we're back to 5 to 10% monthly growth, and it's doubling every year right now. So that's why we're hitting the block size problem right now, is because the growth has resumed and it's really kicked up. So we've got to come to a point where we solve it one way or another, because what's happening right now is the price of doing a Bitcoin transaction keeps increasing. I remember back in the day, I could get it in the next block if I paid 5 cents. I was doing Sends a few weeks back, and I had to up that to 25 cents to get next block, because I needed next block for the use case that I was doing. I didn't have time to wait for confirmations for a really long time.
Well, it sounds like a small amount, and of course it still is, especially compared to any traditional banking money transfer system. Sure. But that's still a 5-fold increase if you think about it. So
yeah, and there's this insatiable demand for people to put stuff on top of Bitcoin. It's this amazing immutable ledger that's distributed all over the world. So, people are going to keep putting stuff on there. And the question is, like, where do those transaction fees go? What is a healthy level, right? Is it 25 cents? Is it 50 cents? Is it $5 a transaction? Like,
I think I know where you're going with this. Maybe.
Wow! That's a low price!
That's a spicy meatball. Maybe let the market decide.
Maybe let the market decide. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the market's going to decide in a few ways, right? If the miners decide the fees are getting too high and it starts hurting transaction volume, they can, switch to a version of the software that supports larger blocks. If the developers can institute better accounting and that clears up this backlog, then that'll solve the problem. But one way or another, everybody has an economic incentive to solve this problem and get Bitcoin to a point where it scales globally. But this is actually why I've spent so much time with the Factom guys, is because especially Brian Deary.
I hate that guy.
Oh, yeah. But he's been focused on this problem. He refers it to the Bitcoin holy war, right, between these two camps. He's been focused on this problem for like 2 years, ever since Overstock was like, oh, we're going to put the stock market on the blockchain. He's like, there's not room to put it on the blockchain, right? We need to come up with scalability solutions. So his solution was to work with Paul to create Factom so you could put all this data on top and just have a tiny footprint of one transaction into Bitcoin every 10 minutes, right? So now Wall Street could put 1 billion entries up in Factom, but it doesn't bloat the network. It's just still one transaction going into Bitcoin.
Right, and that's the beauty of some of those technologies they're developing. Factom's a really cool company, except for Brian Deary, chief scientist. How pompous, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. No, I love Brian Deary. He's been a guest on the show many times.
Yeah.
I just like pulling his chain. No, and I think you kind of alluded to it, but I just want to sort of reiterate and sort of put in my own words. As we talked about, I think off air, it's not so black and white as one solution or the other, whether it's keeping the block size the same or raising it to 2 megabytes or making it 8 or making it unlimited. It's a very nuanced thing. there's no exactly right, exactly wrong solution. Well, I mean, within certain parameters, I guess. But my point is, I forget who we had on recently who even brought this up. And again, it's one of those obvious things when you hear it. But even if they raise it to 2 megabytes, right, eventually it's going to bump up that, and we're going to need solutions like sidechains and related technologies from companies like Factom. So if anything, as time goes by, these solutions, even if they're not sort of immediately implemented or decided upon, they will still be, I think, necessary or useful in the future.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it all, I think.
That's exactly it. It's a yes and kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we need segregated witnesses. Yes, we need 2 megabyte blocks. But yes, we still need Factom because this big bank wants to put 1 billion entries a day, and even at 2 megabytes, that's nowhere close, right? That's orders of magnitude too small for what they want to do with it. So if we want the technology to scale, you got to have Factom, you got to have side chains, you got to have the Lightning Network, you got to have bigger blocks, and you need better accounting. Like, you need all of these things to come together. So what I'm hoping is that each of these different communities that are focused on solving those particular problems will focus on that and roll those out, because we are getting to kind of like this urgent point where it's coming to a head and the network is getting slower and getting more expensive. So we do need to solve it. But I think there's enough smart people in Bitcoin to solve it.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. And, people, it's interesting how even some of the big banks are throwing venture capital into the Bitcoin ecosphere. But of course, if they were to start adopting, putting their transactions on the blockchain, like you said, it would overwhelm it. And that's just if, like, say, one bank did it. People talk about, say, Visa or all of financial transactions. All it would take is a relatively small financial institution who tried to do that to sort of throw the system out of whack. So, there's definitely a lot of room for growth and a lot of need to look not just all the way down the line to the future, but to the little hiccups that could come even, more closer in time.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Well, we got 3.5 minutes left. I want to switch gears slightly. What do you think of the Blockchain Alliance? Are you familiar with that?
I know of 2 or 3 of them, so you have to be a little more specific. But
okay, so is it the Blockchain Alliance? I always
the one in DC, the one in Beijing, the one at
Well, basically, I guess there might be more than one.
Yeah, there are more than one.
But there was one that we. I guess a few months ago it was announced, but it was, I guess it was a DC one.
Yeah, the DC one. Yeah.
Where basically it was like the 30 biggest, well, I could be wrong about that step, but some of the bigger companies in Bitcoin, including like, say, Coinbase, exchanges, and whatever else, joining this organization with law enforcement to kind of stomp down on crime or whatever with Bitcoin. Are you familiar with that one in particular?
I'm familiar with it, and I get the perspective they're coming from, right? Like, if you're running a company and you have to live within these regulatory regimes, you've got to live with certain realities, unfortunately, right? So, I think we're going to see that. Like, every industry has that. And not only every industry, but every industry in every jurisdiction, right? There's a telecom group in India and in China and the US, and they're all, trying to deal with the fact that the state can mandate things. And how do you mitigate that through education? This goes back to like the encryption question. The government's always sort of saying, "Oh, we're going to do backdoors," and then some smart technical person will explain to them, "Yeah, that doesn't really work. That would add vulnerabilities," and they sort of back off a little bit. Well, we didn't really mean it like that. Only for the good guys, right? So some of it is a gap in technical understanding. These people don't spend all their time, nerding out on this technology or know the latest in what's going on. And so I applaud the people that are willing to go and do that hard work of education and talk with these folks and get them up the learning curve on what it really is, right? I mean, you go talk to the Tor guys, they deal with the same thing. I was at the Icelandic dev conference for Tor back in 2014, and half of what they talked about is we got to brief these agencies on how it works, and the fact that an exit node doesn't mean this person is evil. It just means they're participating in the network, right?
Yeah.
And so it reduces hassle for the people that are trying to use these technologies. So there's always going to be that component. It's not like what I want to focus on, but I get it.
Well, that's actually a really good perspective. I mean, I'm very wary of the Blockchain Alliance, but you're right. It's not necessarily in bad faith. You have to deal with the existing regime, regulations, laws, the fact that there are a plethora of such, areas with different laws throughout the world. It's very difficult, and you can't just ignore it. Right. And sometimes it's smart to sort of, preempt it in a way. Like, come to them and start communication before they just unilaterally make moves.
The main thing is the genius point was to make Bitcoin open source so that anybody in the world can use it and they can deal with all these different regulations in different places around the world.
Right, exactly. Well, we're coming to break. David Johnston, did you want to stick with us another segment, or you got to go?
I'm going to run, but it was a blast, guys.
Well, thank you so much, David Johnston, Decentralized Applications Fund Managing Director.
Can't be trusted. Can't be trusted. Can't be
guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show, the second hour, here on this lovely February 10th, 2016, on Wednesday, here on Logos Radio Network. Don't forget to check out logosradionetwork.com's annual fundraiser, some cool prizes that you can win, including My Magic Mud, All About Vape. Is it All About Vape?
All About Vapor.
All About Vapor, gift cards, and some cool stuff from Central Texas Gunworks. Well, we had a really good discussion with David Johnston, the managing director of the Decentralized Applications Fund, about decentralized applications and how they are kind of the future of Bitcoin and how there's a lot of potential for them to revolutionize all sorts of things. We're hoping to have maybe in studio Joel Williamson of the Alliance of Austin Agorists. He was here earlier.
No, he's not coming.
Oh, he's not coming.
No.
Well, what a jerk. But we were just listening to, I guess there's some breaking news. Was that live what you were hearing?
Yes.
And how was that being broadcast? You know?
They're live streaming it from the compound there in Oregon, and apparently the FBI, an FBI siege is happening at the compound in Oregon.
And I know
they just had the mayor or something on the line, and some crazy stuff.
Well, and I know this has been in the news quite a bit for the past, few weeks, I guess, at least, maybe a few months at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it. I know it has something to do with like ranchers' property rights. Is that it? And the government basically sort of, what do you call it?
They were doing controlled burns to basically, keep from having a huge forest fire, and they got arrested for doing that.
So these ranchers were.
Right.
And was this on their land? Was it on federal land?
I think it was federal grazing land. I could be wrong.
So do you know, did they have the rights to do that on the federal grazing land?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had rights for grazing, but not to start a fire.
I see. So it seems like some weird technicality about, getting people arrested or charged for, I guess, arson or at least violating some sort of fire code. Simply because they were, I presumably responsibly, I can't imagine they were just like slash and burning and letting the fire get out of control. I mean, the whole idea of...
No, they were cutting fire breaks and stuff. So
yeah. Well, and so was the fire for, it was actually to reduce the possibility of actual, like, uncontrolled outbreaks, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And those kinds of techniques have been around for a long time.
Well, why would you burn down what you're trying to feed your cattle?
Yeah, and how would they have an incentive to destroy the land that their cattle is grazing on? That doesn't make any sense. Come on. And I don't know a lot about this case. I'm going to be honest, and I wish I knew more now that it's kind of breaking. But, one of the biggest indicators that something is wrong in a news story is if there's an implausible claim being made. What do I mean by implausible claim?
So basically what's happening right now is they're on the occupiers in Oregon are on the phone with their lawyer, and they're negotiating with, I guess, an FBI negotiator or something. But obviously they're trigger happy. I mean, look at, what was it? Lavoie. They didn't have a problem shooting him unarmed.
I don't know who Lavoie is.
Finnegan, the guy, you don't know who Lavoie Finnegan? No. Okay.
Is this related to this
incident? Just last week. They shot the guy in the snow.
Oh, wow. Well, though I'm ignorant of a lot of the details, this just reminds me, the FBI has been a nuisance and a bunch of murdering thugs basically since its inception. I mean, all you have to do is look at Ruby Ridge, where I believe they shot and killed the whole family of three, the father, wife, and son, who were, I forget the details. I think they were occupying their own land, and the FBI was trying to remove them. And because they wouldn't leave their own land, the FBI basically killed them, including the teenage son.
Was it yesterday? Was the anniversary for David Koresh? Was it? Yeah, I believe it was yesterday or the day before.
I always forget if that's April 19th.
No, it was just that day.
I can look this up. You're probably right. The Branch Davidians is what it is. Well, and there's another one. I remember when the Branch Davidian siege happened, and of course, looking back on it, it's amazing how much propaganda you can recognize as an adult that you were surrounded with as a kid. And I'm not saying that David Koresh or whatever I know that's not his real name, but it's the name he went by. I'm not saying he was a good guy. I'm not saying he wasn't perhaps a crazy, messianic megalomaniac who thought he was Jesus. I'm not saying he didn't perhaps do questionable things to, children or women within that camp. Although I don't know. I remain agnostic. I wasn't there. And some of that evidence or some of those assertions, of course, are filtered through the government, through the FBI, that ended up killing a lot of the people there. Did everyone die in that? Was it the whole I forget. You'd think I'd remember more of this stuff. But a lot of people died at the Branch Davidian complex in Waco. And the FBI laid siege to it, burned down the place, shot a bunch of people. And, of course, eventually the people shot back because they were being threatened with death. But how can you blame people for defending themselves when they're being surrounded by federal troops, basically, and either asked to be forcibly removed from their compound, their private property, from their way of life? And again, I can't say one way or another necessarily how acceptable some of the aspects of that way of life was, but I can tell you some of the negative aspects of it were probably exaggerated by the government. Stuff was fabricated, and it wasn't so black and white or simple as the media and the government would have us believe. I mean, you can almost bet that. And so both Ruby Ridge and the Branch Davidian complex were, of course, done by the FBI, the Waco siege. And, of course, we all know how the FBI has set up terror stings itself. No, the Waco siege was April – oh, wait. Yeah. The Waco siege ended April 19th and began February 28th. And so I remember that because Timothy McVeigh, when he allegedly committed the Oklahoma City bombing of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, claimed that he was doing it, I believe, out of revenge for the Waco siege. And, of course, if you've seen A Noble Lie, which was in part produced by Holland van den Nieuwenhof, who we had on last week on the show, and who's a part of the Brave New Books team, the whole situation was a government operation and a cover-up and a lie. Timothy McVeigh was still working for the government undercover. He was a black ops. There's basically indisputable evidence, many pieces of indisputable evidence to support that idea. And clearly what he was doing by associating Waco with Oklahoma City was to make anyone who questions the Waco siege and what the FBI did there look like a nutcase or a terrorist, or you're some crazy far-right wing militia member. And it was a very effective piece of propaganda. And let me see, the events near Waco. Yeah, that's right. And Ruby Ridge actually took place less than a year before Waco. And actually, that's right. And it says Timothy McVeigh cited both events as motivations for the bombing in Oklahoma City. But, people don't buy that stuff. Don't buy the BS. There's so much proof that Oklahoma City was done by the government and not by some lone nut, Timothy McVeigh, for purposes of passing terrorist legislation and scaring the American people. Let's see. We got someone on the line? No. Oh, man, you got me all excited. Go ahead and give the number. Well, if you do want to talk to us, if you have some info on what's going on with the siege, breaking news, I guess, call us at 512-646-1984. That's 512-646-1984. And give us the lowdown on what's going on. Give us your opinion on what's going on. And preferably focus on how evil the government is, because it has always been.
Yeah, they apparently haven't sieged them yet, but it's still going on.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, one of the reasons for this issue in the first place is the fact that the federal government owns huge swaths of land in the United States in the first place, which, if I recall, I could be wrong on this point, but it's there were early in the country, there were huge disputes between the state governments and the federal government in the federal government's ownership of land. And if we're going to have this terrible behemoth of a government, I mean, it makes sense that it's going to own land, right? But they own there are whole states where, I think, like, for instance, in Nevada and much of the Southwest, there are states where the majority of the land in the state is owned by the federal government. And that's crazy. What do they need to do that for? They don't. What happens with that is they use that land for nefarious government programs, for secret ops, like the Manhattan Project or Area 51 or God knows what they're concocting to make the world a worse place. And none of us need that. And all that land could be put to productive use by privatizing it, by giving it back to the people. The land could be put to more productive use by simply leaving it alone and taking it outside of federal government control, because even having sort of unowned commons land would be better than the government wasting however many millions or billions basically overseeing those lands and conducting God knows what kinds of operations in those lands that are, at best wasteful and at worst nefarious. So, this issue I think is potentially multi-layered and stretches further than the mere situation that's going on up there. But it is an interesting development that we're seeing up in Oregon. And again, if you want to call in, 512-646-1984, tell us what you know about what's going on up in Oregon. Or you can talk to us about Bitcoin. Or you can talk to us about conspiracy or libertarianism, whatever you want, because you're our listener, you're our guest, and we want you to talk about whatever you want to talk about, because you're the reason for the show. You're the reason for Danny's and my existence. Well, we're coming to break here on the Crypto Show, and hopefully we'll get a caller in the next segment who can fill us in on what's going on. We'll be talking more about the whole situation in Oregon. We might even have a surprise guest who just walked in to the studio to save the day and maybe give us some more info and analysis on just what's going on here. And I'll save his introduction until the other side of the break. That way you're left on edge, on your tippy toes, in anticipation and suspense for our incredible guests. So stay tuned to the Crypto Show, guys. We'll be right back.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
For the longest time. For the longest. If you said that Bitcoin was my life, I would tell you.
Show enough. Show you right.
What else can I do? I'm so inspired by you, and I'm just holding for the longest time. Once I knew my stocks and bonds were gone, I knew Satoshi Nakamoto was the one to come and save me.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely February 10th, 2016, a Wednesday. And we're having some basically breaking news with what's been happening up in Oregon with the situation up there. There's a live stream that we've connected to. I think we're going to play it here in a moment. Are you already plugged in?
Yeah, I have it plugged in. So
yeah, just relax and carry the message. Everyone's listening, so we don't have to shout. Just keep it calm. You guys are doing much better over there. Just keep it settled. We know you're under a lot of pressure.
You know what we need is we need people at the fucking gates.
Oh. Okay.
Are they going to kill us all?
If they wanted to kill you, just think about this. If they'd wanted to kill you right away, they would have done it before you called me. So now that everybody's watching,
they're going to get tired of negotiating.
Yeah,
right,
they'll get tired if we don't give in.
Some sneaky tactic by coming up close to us.
I know, but everybody's watching now. And listen, guys, it's on national news networks, and there's over 50.
We're going to die here, and our story will get out that way. Then that's
no, but just remember, God's in control of that. God can confound the wicked. Okay.
Listen to me, you guys. Listen to me.
This is on the live stream from YouTube right now. So
I want you guys. We need to consider, and I'm just saying consider. We need to we're brainstorming in the truck, Mike Arnold and I. We need to consider how to be able to build. And this is trust and safety. This is very difficult, considering what's taken place in the past. But thank God for David Fry that we've got live stream, right? So I have to tell you, I seriously doubt. Transparency is their shield, your shield right now. Do you understand? Everyone is watching.
Yeah, God's watching too.
Yes, he is.
God is watching. God is watching. So, okay, so let me ask you a question. Is it possible for you guys to have those cameras on you walking? We don't have any cameras.
Our phones are so fried from what they've done to them. We don't have cameras, and they'll destroy them or say they lost them.
All right.
You can't trust. You keep telling me there's laws to prevent them. They don't follow the law.
I know.
Yeah, I got you. I'm talking about out here live streaming right now. Is it possible
Do you know how
live stream walking towards? Is it possible to see them on the?
No, I mean, we can listen to some more of this, but do you know much of the background of the situation?
Well, this is the Rancher Revolt in Burns, Oregon. We have people who are upset at the way the federal government is waging war on the life of the cowboy. And
can you tell us specifically how that's happening?
Basically through the increase of grazing fees, the management of land, the basically driving ranchers to sell their land to the federal government for pennies on the dollar, and then depriving that land of access to other ranchers. The BLM is on a land grab. You could call it Agenda 21. You could call it the nature of bureaucracy. You could call it the Obama administration's hostility towards the country way of life. I don't know. It's probably a combination
Probably
of
all of those,
yes.
yeah.
But the human result we see right now in Burns, Oregon, as we were listening to the live stream, is that the FBI is now 50 foot outside the building in which the 4 remaining holdouts are. They have weapons drawn. They have helicopters buzzing the refuge headquarters, and they're screaming at the people inside, taunting them, telling them to be a man and come out and surrender. So we have a potential Waco-like situation unrolling right now with people inside who are not knowing if they're going to be alive in a few minutes or not.
And it sounds like they are legitimately scared for their lives.
And if you want to follow along, I post a link on the Crypto Show on the Crypto Show's Facebook page, so you can follow the live stream there if you want.
And we can continue to listen to some of it too in a minute. But well, real quick, so they have guns drawn. They've got helicopters trying to get 4 people. These people, I don't know them. I've barely heard much from this little snippet of audio. They don't sound crazy or violent or dangerous.
They sound frustrated with the way the federal government conducts its business regarding the citizenry, as we all should be, as we all are.
Absolutely. So why does the FBI need guns drawn and helicopters around it to get 4 pretty harmless people?
Because basically the people are guilty of disobedience to the federal government.
Oh, well, you can't have that.
And when it comes down to it, that comes down to
the
guns.
It sounds like it's getting kind of heavy.
Okay. We're going back to the live stream.
If they don't want anybody to die and they want to help these ranchers, they would back out of here, and then they would wait till tomorrow when it's daylight, and we have witnesses, and we can settle this peacefully. That is what we're offering.
Right.
Okay, and I agree.
They don't want bloodshed. They go for that.
Okay. I think that...
They can...
Sean, do you have LaVoy's Bible?
They're 50 feet from me in a fucking armed vehicle.
Okay, well, okay, listen to me. You guys, you have your live feed, right? You're there, and everyone's watching, right?
So far.
So we need to stay calm. We need to stay calm. Okay? We need to just stay calm. And we need to show America that we are trying to work with them and negotiate a peaceful exit.
And then they lock us up for maximum of 6 years for one charge, and then whatever other charges they can find. I'm spending 10 years of my life without my wife. She's locked up in a filthy fucking prison for something we didn't do wrong, and then they can keep us forever, and I can bend down and kiss my ass when none of you people can help us do anything.
All right. We got some language there. I guess we have to fade away. But
can't blame him, though.
Yes. They don't want to go to jail for the rest of their lives for standing up for what they view as their constitutional right to continue their way of life without harming anyone. Where was the original harm rendered here? Was it rendered by these ranchers, rendered by the government? Let's remember that, whatever the outcome is here. But right now, the FBI at night has surrounded the refuge, and it's at night. Wow, if they want a peaceful outcome, they would not be doing this at night where they can hide what they're doing.
Just like that guy said, wait till the morning when we can get witnesses so there's no bloodshed. That was so powerful when I heard it.
Yes.
That's exactly true. Why do this at night when it's easy to cover up what might happen?
Well, I'm sure the book to hostage toward these situations advises not to try to close it at night if you're looking for a peaceful solution. They're doing this so there's no witnesses.
That's a really good point. And so, real quick, too, are they the compound or whatever it is that they're on?
It's a wildlife refuge building.
Wildlife refuge building. Oh,
yes,
okay.
It was unoccupied by the federal government. It was closed down. So they occupied this empty building to demonstrate their frustration with the federal government's treatment of ranchers in that area, which led to just several days ago the murder of LaVoy Finnegan on a snowy road outside Oregon on his way to give a Constitution teaching class. And now we have those same perpetrators outside the refuge, people inside who are friends of LaVoy, have personal possessions still there, wondering if they're going to live through the night.
Do you know the circumstances of LaVoy's death? I mean, you said he was on his way, but do you know?
It's unclear. We all saw the overhead surveillance footage, which was from a manned plane, but there was no audio, so we don't know when the gunshots were fired. We don't know if he was reaching for a weapon, which was opposite of the side he usually keeps his weapon if he had a weapon on him, or if he had been shot. We don't know. All we saw the final shooting where he died and they let him bleed out in the snow.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
They did not render aid.
Wow.
It was like 4 foot of snow. The dude's old as heck, and he can't run at them. It's not like he could charge them or anything, and they just they shot him from all different angles.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had like bulletproof vests on and stuff too.
Oh yeah, they were all tacked out.
Yeah.
And this guy was wearing a jean jacket.
And he was shot like 7 times.
God.
But anyways, if you want to listen to yourself, we will be bringing this back up again when it seems they calm down and we can avoid the language. You can go to Oregon Live or the Facebook page for the radio show and check it out there. It is live streaming from the Oregon Wildlife Refuge where the standoff has been taking place and apparently is coming to a conclusion. And hopefully a peaceful conclusion.
Hopefully.
Fox News, all the big news channels wouldn't even cover it if they cover it up.
They're covering it now. They're covering it now.
They're going to cover it, okay? And they're
covering it now because they're hoping there's bloodshed. You goddamn right.
Okay, listen to me. They don't want bloodshed. I don't want bloodshed. How are we? Let me ask you a question, and I want you guys to really think about this. Okay?
We're coming to break.
How are we really?
And we'll
we're
listen to more of this on the other side.
Overnight,
and we're talking with Holland Van de Nieuwenhof in studio about this pretty remarkable event. And we'll discuss more of it on the other side of the break here on The Crypto Show. So stay tuned, guys. We've still got a couple more seconds left.
You may think our brains deteriorate with age, but new research shows that as brains get older, they actually work more efficiently. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back with new research on how aging makes the mind sharper after this.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
It's a widely held notion that the older people get, the more doddering they become. But new research shows that even as our brains age, they can actually become more efficient. Scientists asked two groups of volunteers, one age 18 to 35 and the other 55 to 75, to associate different words with given topics. At one point, they told everyone they'd made a mistake. When that happened, the younger group's brains lit up and lost focus, but the older group's brains didn't even flinch, and they stayed focused on solving the next task. The moral? There's something to be said for experience. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Chemtrails. You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
I've been walking a tightrope between fact and fiction, been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons, been talking to sinners who claim to be Christian, but shouting at leaders who claim to be listening in a pendulum swings.
Welcome back, guys, to The Crypto Show. We're going to have a little discussion about what's going on as we continue, but for the time being...
It's kind of ironic. We're listening to Jordan Page, who just went to the funeral for Leroy Finnegan.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he actually played music there at the funeral for him.
Well, that's very touching.
He was actually on his way to go do a concert there. So,
well, good for you, Jordan Page. I respect that. That's pretty awesome. Man, I had no idea. Well, let's listen to some more of what's happening live in Oregon.
Until we give up. It has to be their way or no way. So there's a decision we can make. It would make it not their way.
All the time before they ever go to court. They did in Ferguson. They dropped the warrants. They did to child molester.
This is all bullshit, but they can't drop the warrants.
All the time.
They could back out of here and wait till tomorrow and walk us out with you two. But they won't fucking do that either.
Okay, guys, can we stop and say a prayer again? You want me to? Can we get together and let's pray again? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll go ahead this time. All right, Father, we ask that you will confound the wicked. We know that our nation has failed in many ways, and we've forgotten the weak and the fatherless and the widow and the unborn, and we've failed to stand up for this liberty that you gave us, God. But we ask that you'll intervene on our behalf. We ask that you'll give us a place in liberty, and that you'll open up the hearts of the people to stand up for righteousness, and that you'll put in the hearts of the wicked and those who are abusing liberty to have a conscience, and that they'll be confounded if they will not, and that they'll stand down. And we ask that you'll give us peace and watch over us and guide us and deliver us from the arrows, because even when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God, you are with us, and we need not fear evil. We ask that you give us strength. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah.
Now,
amen.
Sean.
Okay.
Let me say something, Sean. Yeah. Okay, I just want to tell you a real quick story. Remember that in 1775 in Lexington Concord, when the British came and when they attacked them, like our FBI has done to Lavoie, when they drew blood after the smoke cleared, they regrouped and they came back and they made plans. They didn't just have the attitude of, well, let's rush in and be martyrs for the cause and die for the cause. So we can find peace in this, and we can.
And that's exactly correct. In 1775, though, listen, in 1775, the founding fathers did not submit to the tyranny. They did not surrender and put their hands into their lives into the hands of the enemy.
At times, this was true.
Let me tell you something. There's a big difference. Please listen to my words. There is a big difference between surrendering and regrouping. So understand. Regrouping, we can't step in prison. And we will be there a long time. We will be there because they're going to stack more and more and more charges. You're not listening. To hear my words. For the Constitution. And they took the right away. Listen, honey, Sandy, I need you to understand that this right now, at this crossroads that we're working kill us right and now, get it over with. No, don't say that. Sandy, oh my God. is we need to pick a new battleground. That battleground might be.
Is not in jail.
Everybody wants to fucking quit.
In jail. Everybody wants to give up and quit.
Guys, it takes time for people to wake up.
No.
And you're doing that, okay?
Six people threw tea over the sides of the boat and started a revolution.
Well, okay, Sean, remember, Sean, listen, it took more time than that, though, and many of the founders did go to jail, and they even went to the lawless courts as they worked through the process. And so it's not all lost.
They did not do it.
One founding father let his sons die with the British because he wouldn't take his name off the Declaration because he knew it was that important.
Okay.
They were willing to sacrifice.
You guys got this. Listen to me. You guys are getting this. We need to pick a new battleground, okay? And our battleground is going to be.
It's not in the courts.
Sandy, I need you to pay attention to me. Woman to woman. Listen to me, Sandy.
The American people to stand up.
It's not in the graveyard. I'm going to tell you that. It's not in the graveyard.
That's the world that I don't want to be a part of then.
Sandy, you have a big story to get out there.
And it'll be told from the grave.
No, it will not. It will not. Listen to me. Please listen.
Here tonight.
I'm willing. You guys, I'm willing to be with you. I'm totally willing to be with you.
You want to talk to Jeff for a minute? Talk to Jeff for a minute.
Okay, I will talk to Jeff.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
This is Michelle?
This is Michelle Fiore. This is your assemblywoman on your side.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Dude. No, okay.
I've got to get away from it.
Did it cut out, I guess?
No, it's rebooting or something.
Well, we're listening live from Burns, Oregon, where the FBI has surrounded the refuge center.
I can hear you now.
There it goes.
Are you there?
Listen to me, you guys. You guys, I want you to keep calm, and I want you to stay with me on the phone because we are going to make this work together. Do you understand? I'm going to be with you together. Do you understand?
I do. I guess I heard you earlier. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So what are we looking at? What do we need to do to get them to back off, or do we just write it out?
We're working on that. We're working on that. First of all, I want to just ask you guys. I know it's 7:30.
Okay. This is just Jeff. This is just Jeff. Everybody else is away.
Okay. So let me ask you something, Jeff. Is everyone kind of calm? Is everyone calm?
Yeah, I think so. I think.
Okay.
For the most part.
Has everyone eaten and drinking? Is everyone hydrated and fed? Because sometimes you do know that if we're hungry, if we're dehydrated, sometimes it can affect the way we think and what our decisions are. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, sure. Because you're not leading me down the road, are you? Because it sounds like you might be leading me down the road. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Never mind it. I think we're okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. You guys are going to get out of there alive.
I'm dealing with this. I don't know what's going on. So anyway.
Okay. So where is everyone right now? Where is everyone?
Okay, everybody's pretty much facing where they came from. You want me to stand over there?
Where is everyone right now? I need everyone
kind of behind me facing. You need everybody on the phone?
Yeah, I need everyone calm. Yeah, I need everyone
everybody's calm. Okay, you're confused with it.
We are working on getting there. Do you understand? We are working on coming to you. Okay?
Hey, Jeff.
I need everyone calm. Hey, are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? Hey, listen to me. Are you guys good? Okay. Yep. Okay. Are you there? Okay. We're here. Okay. All right. So let's recap here for a second.
It's buffering again.
But you're listening live to the live stream from Burns, Oregon, where the FBI is closing in on the refuge, has it surrounded, and is screaming at them through a bullhorn to surrender.
What has been the media coverage concerning this? I mean, has it generally favored the FBI? Has it tried to paint the ranchers in a bad light?
It's tried to paint the ranchers as angry white men who are upset about much ado about nothing and perhaps should be killed for their insolence for standing up to the federal government. That's been the tilt of the coverage.
Wow. And your average American just kind of eats that up.
Well, I don't know how the average American thinks about it. I think actually the average American would be upset if these people died.
Wasn't it Montel?
I hope so.
I think it was Montel Williams that said something like that. We had to go up there and kill them all or something.
Well,
yeah, I think
Montel is Montel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is a sensationalist former talk show host. That's kind of not surprising. And so I think you mentioned earlier, this kind of has echoes of Waco.
This is Waco and Ruby Ridge all over again. And under a Democratic administration, you have a brutal federal crackdown on legitimate dissent, on people who just want to be left alone by the government. They're not bothering anyone, and they weren't going to bother the government until the government started bothering them, and they are standing up for the constitutional rights. And I hope, it sounds like many of them in the refuge are considering not spending the rest of their life in jail over this. They're considering an early, a fiery exit, and I hope not. I hope it doesn't turn out that well. We don't need anyone else in the grave over this. Lavoie is enough. And right now, with the FBI surrounding them, initiating this action at night in the darkness does not bode well for a good outcome.
That's for sure. And the federal government operating in darkness, that seems so fitting, both literally and metaphorically. I mean, it is a tough cookie. I hope they don't go out in gunfire. I hope they aren't killed. But man, facing all that prison time, they would likely get convicted, I guess, of whatever charges there are.
Well, they're guilty of the charges.
They are. I see.
Which is obstructing a federal officer in the performance of his duties and so forth. There are a bunch of.
We'll be right back, guys.
Easy.
Welcome back to the Crypto Show. I am a guest on, Holland Vanden Owenhoff. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
But we've been listening to a live stream from the Wildlife Refuge in Burns, Oregon, where currently the FBI has the refuge surrounded, is pointing weapons at the 4 occupants of the building and demanding their surrender. Apparently the occupants are debating amongst themselves whether they want to go to prison for an extended period of their life or to take a stand. They are live streaming with their attorney and their assemblywoman, who are trying to talk them down from making an example of themselves. We do not want to see a bloody end to this standoff, despite the FBI initiating this action at night, which is very suspicious as to their intentions.
Yeah, and it's it's certainly a tough situation. I don't think that they should fight it out, but I can understand when you're in that pickle. It's like, do you rot away in prison for much of the rest of your life, or what's the alternative? The only alternative, I guess, is to is what you stated. So it's hopefully, though, I think the right solution is a peaceable end to this.
We're trying to bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back if you can.
Okay, and it's not playing.
Well, it looks like the live stream has been interrupted momentarily. As soon as it comes back, we will bring it back.
And so there
it goes.
Here we go.
Is that it?
I'm getting really tired here. I'm getting really tired.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm speeding to Burns right now.
And they're calling on that.
Do you understand? Okay, I am speeding to you guys right now. Okay? So, yeah. Listen, and listen, and listen to me. I just need to ask you guys, listen, if we get speeding tickets, you guys need to be alive so you can reimburse us, okay?
Okay, hey, guys.
Fine. I'm just trying to lighten it up. We're speeding to you right now.
Yeah, they're coming. All right. Hey, how about we read a psalm, okay, guy? Jeff, Sean, Sandy, David, you there?
Okay.
Do you guys have Lavoie's Bible, or shall I read it?
I feel like we'd have more progress if we were on the phone and forcing people to be here.
People are on the phone all over the place.
We've said so many prayers.
Hey,
we've said so many prayers.
Listen to me. Hey, look what you just did. I'm driving to Burns. I'm driving to you.
We need thousands to drive to Burns. We need thousands to drive here and make them stand down.
Okay. You know what? What did we talk about? We talked about me getting to you, and we talked about walking out together. Okay? I'm coming to you.
But they won't let you here. So then when I go to prison and I get charged for 10 years, and you guys try everything, and the judge says, nope, because we're the federal government. We can do what we want. Then what?
We know, Jeff, they're lawless, but Jeff, God overrides them. God is more powerful than them, even if we're weak.
Listen to, is that David in the background?
No. Somebody on the line.
Okay.
It was somebody on the line. This is Sean talking.
Okay, all right. Sean, I want you to know and understand there are many that you don't know that are behind you. Okay? So I just think that you guys need to understand I'm here. There's other people here. You know, there's like 4 elected officials here. I'm not here by myself. Yep, I know. Okay, yeah.
You know, the night that they killed the Void, I stood here and stayed because we didn't know that we could leave. And I was heartfelt that I had Patriots coming. I had heard there was 100 Patriots from Oregon walking in on foot to save us. And nobody showed up. And you're expecting me to trust people when they tell me things?
Listen.
Half of them were feds that we talked to that we thought were Patriots.
Listen to me. They didn't show up because they were blocked out.
and protested. They could have stood at the gate. And
What have you seen them? What have you seen them? What have you seen them?
They were told to stand down, and that's what they
You're
did.
right. You're right. They were. And up to this point, let's not pretend about it. America failed. But we can make it, but we can stand now, and God is in control of it.
I think that they would do the helicopter for us.
But there's no need to die.
All right, here's the deal. We'll walk out tomorrow. Other than that, you got to fucking come and kill me because we're not leaving until you guys get here tomorrow. That's my concession. That's it.
Okay.
And we know that Mark can hear that. We know he can hear that.
Yes, he can hear.
Listen to me.
Because he interrupted our prayer, and he was talking about having coffee with you tomorrow. So we know he heard that.
Okay. Listen to me. Okay.
No, I'm done talking. I'm done praying. That's it. That's it. You want this peacefully? You want this peacefully? You want us to leave peacefully? We'll do that tomorrow when you and Franklin Graham get here. Otherwise, they're going to have to fucking kill us.
Okay, I'm on.
If they want to end it peacefully, you get somebody to make them stand down.
I need you. We're working on it. We're working on it. We can't see.
Hey, Jeff, I got an idea.
59,000 people are listening to you. Do you know that? 59,000 people.
What good is that doing us? Nobody's here.
No. You want to know?
They're just waiting to hear us die. That's it.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Hey, listen. They're not. They're not waiting for you to die. They're
well, then I should have 59,000 people there in the morning to support us.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Hang on. I'm going to put Mike Arnold on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Give me 1 second.
Hi, this is Mike Arnold. We're driving you guys right now. And
Jeff keeps interrupting. Mark keeps interrupting, so I can't hear you.
Okay, this is Mike Arnold. We're driving to Burns right now. So if we lose reception, it's because we're going through a mountain pass. Okay? The FBI.
We'll probably be dead then.
The FBI has assured me that if we lose reception, they're not going to do anything to aggravate the situation. So if you lose reception, that's my fault because I'm not driving fast enough through the pass. I'm going to put myself out.
Sir, they assured us that they wouldn't come in and do this as well. And here they are.
Hey, man, they just made a promise to a third party. And
they did that to Reverend Graham as well.
All right, man, hang in there. Put my cell back on.
Okay, are you guys there? Listen to me. We've got to wait before we lose. I'm not going anywhere unless we lose. We're not going to lose.
I got Matt Shea from Washington on the phone.
Matt Shea, we got Matt Shea too. Matt Shea is with us. We've got Assemblywoman Shelton with us. We've got Assemblyman John Moore with us. You have a lot of support.
Well, we need people here too. American citizens here too.
Listen to me. How's 59,000 to start? How's that? How's that number?
But they're not here.
Yes, they are. What you don't understand is people are watching you. They are there with you in spirit. Some of these folks are in New York and Jersey, and you guys, this is. Listen, we are driving to you, and we're going to stick to our word. And I'm coming to you. Okay. Okay.
How far away are you? How many hours?
Well, I landed in Portland, so we're about 20, however long I've been on the phone with you, out of Portland. So, and we're speeding. So I don't know. I've never driven from Portland to Burns. So
Probably about 4 hours. About 4 hours, probably.
Is that about 4 hour drive?
Okay.
They ain't gonna hold off 4 hours. They're getting pretty antsy.
Yes. No. They have given Mike Arnold their word. They will not do anything, and they are listening. They are listening to
given word.
And if they go back on the word, what's Mike Arnold going to do about that?
Listen to me. You know what? They can't go back on their word when we have 60,000 Americans watching.
They already have. Over and over and over again.
I get it. I get it. Why do you think I'm here? Sandy, I'm here.
I know.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
here
you for being here.
Listen to me. And we're going to do this together, and we're going to make sure we stay alive. And we can't. Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to. Okay. So, I'm not going to. So, we're driving, and we're working diligently on the other line. And so I just want you guys to stay calm and stay with me. Because
anybody get a hold of the governor?
You know what? Here. We need you guys alive so we can continue to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. We need you guys to stay alive so we can continue to take back our land. We need you to stay alive.
If we're dead, the American people will be mad as hell.
Or not. You know what? No. Let me tell you. Let me tell you that you are not going to die. Just stay with me on the phone because I'm not going to let you die. If you promise me, you'll stay with me. Do you understand? I mean, just promise me we're gonna all together stay cool and we're going to exit this together alive. Tell me that. I want to hear that from each one of you. Can you say that to me?
Can you get the FBI to say that thing?
Yes, I can. Yes, we're working on it. We are working on it. Yes, we are. We are working on that. We are absolutely working on it.
Well, I want you to know if I tell you something, I mean it, and I'll stick by it.
Okay,
I can't
that's right.
say that about them.
I know, but you and I, the only thing we've got is our word. That's all we have. Okay? So.
Well, I thought I had the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I thought I had America that would stand and keep those rights.
But you know what? You do. Do you know how many? Listen, I'm here because of that, because I took that oath. Don't forget that. I'm here because I took that oath. And there are many out there that are coming because they took that oath.
You can only do what they allow. If we step back long and let them have so much power.
Guess what? We live in Germany now. Do you understand? Well, we need America back. How about that? We need America.
Yes, we do.
We do. And that's why
We're coming towards the end of the show, and I'm being told that none of the local news is carrying this. We're the only ones doing it. So, yes.
Way to go for the crypto show. And I guess 60,000 people listening in on this live stream. Where's the live stream again, Holland?
It's at OregonLive.com. You can look it up on YouTube at live from Refuge FBI coming in. You can find it. The live stream is on. 60,000 people are listening to it. I hope 60,000 people are praying right now that we don't have another bloodbath on our hands.
Or go to the Crypto Show's Facebook page, and the link is right there.
Well, Holland, thanks for sitting in. Didn't have much time to talk, but maybe in an upcoming show we can discuss.
Hopefully the happy ending to this.
Hopefully a happy ending. Absolutely. See you next time, guys.